I felt I was Michigan. I just felt I was so much a part of it that nothing would ever change that.
Hello and welcome to the MGO podcast live at the Bow Store on Main Street. I am currently looking at the best jacket that's ever existed.
Same here.
Hey, you said something.
I did, even
did.
before cued. You know, that's something. Should I stay high still, or have we moved past that?
Well, so a sponsor just wanted to
just blowing right through that.
A sponsor wanted to sponsor the awkward pause before you speak in the podcast.
You know, I'm in support of this.
Ruined that.
I'm sorry. I've cost us a sponsorship opportunity.
Yes, obviously. So we took a bye week off because there was nothing to talk about, and now we are kind of faced with the fact that we must talk about Rutgers or Illinois, and probably both.
It's a Sophie's choice here.
So this might be a cheese-focused podcast.
It could be.
I did find some things in the UFR or the Rutgers game that I thought were really interesting, mostly on defense. So Michigan, they ran out at 3-3-5, and with Peppers on the field, it's really a 3-2-6. It's almost a dime.
Yeah.
And they ran a series of blitzes off of it that – remember that Gideon tackle for a loss where he just thundered into the backfield by himself?
Yes.
So that was Don Brown scheming that up. So – you know, McCray and Thomas took the outside blockers, and they created a path up the gut for Gideon on his blitz. And I really liked that. I really liked many of the things that we saw from Don Brown in this game because, you know, Ohio State is a lot like Rutgers because they hired Chris Ash. They're currently running a spread offense. And while they are a homeless man's Rutgers,
they're a homeless man's Ohio State.
Yes, that's what I mean.
But they do run a lot of their plays.
They do, and I thought that Don Brown had good answers for a number of them. So Chris Wormley had a tackle for loss on QB lead zone, which is an absolute staple for Ohio State. And I know that Ohio State's going to see that on film. I know that Ohio State is going to think about it and try to come up with counters, but I also know that Don Brown is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, he will have those too.
So that package, to me, was something that I think we're going to see a lot of as the season goes along. They've got that four-man front, and they want to be diverse. And I think that was important because we saw in the Wisconsin game, the Wisconsin-Ohio State game, that the Ohio State team, they had a real struggle in the first half on offense. And then they kind of figured out the things in their playbook that work well against that 3-4.
Yeah. And
they downloaded it, and they had a much more successful second half. And for Michigan to have a full game's worth of a high-level defensive play, they can't just run in there with one defense.
Yeah, I mean, we saw kind of what happens last year when you try to do that against Ohio State.
Yes. And that was pretty bad in the first half, and then it got horrendous in the second half. And I'm highly encouraged by the fact that I feel when I watch this Don Brown defense that it's difficult for me to figure out. It's going to be difficult for everybody else to figure out as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a different thing every week, it seems like, and that's the case on both sides of the ball. And, I mean, I know you were a little peeved that Harbaugh put some stuff on film in this game, but there's so much else that he's going to be able to also do off of that it doesn't bother me as much as it would if, you know, like a Brady Hoke team showed some things on film. Because you know that if they're showing something, that's what they're going to run.
Well, and you go back to that quote from the ESPN article that was inside the Wisconsin defensive backs meeting before Ohio State. And Jim Leonard is, you know, saying about the Ohio State offense, now, is this as hard as Michigan, which was something new on every snap? And I love that quote.
Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice.
Ohio
State got all mad when Oklahoma's backup quarterback called their defense basic. So I wonder how they reacted to that, that quote.
Probably not. I mean, the thing about Ohio State's defense is it is basic, but it's super talented, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, that was the same.
But I thought both these things were like true,
Yeah.
and also things that could be taken the wrong way.
Well, yeah, yes, but at least it's not Michigan people saying them.
True.
And then apologizing afterwards. At least it's not that. And then a couple of the other things I thought were things that jumped off the tape to me was number one was Devin Asiasi.
Yeah, he mauled people.
He did, and I gave him a known friend and trusted agent nod, and I was working off a rewatch, but I hadn't really gone over it.
It was a bit cursory.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I give an offensive lineman one of those, and then I'm like, well, it probably should have gone to the guy next to him. No, Devin Asiasi was a major catalyst for most of the long runs that Chris Evans had.
Yeah,
and I was kind of surprised to see the Pro Football Focus grade on him, where he was basically even on the ground, and I thought he was just killing people.
Yeah.
So
there's a stark difference there.
Maybe I'm a little bit too enthused, but I stand by my grade because he just moved people. Like, he got to the second level, and then he engaged with the guy, and that guy was done.
And it's not like you have a history of going super easy on tight ends in UFR grading regarding their blocking, so.
I was just thinking about this, is that I haven't necessarily seen an impact blocker at tight end for Michigan ever.
A.J. Williams last year was kind of becoming one, but
Yeah.
he had such a long way to go.
Yeah. But, Koger was okay. I came in, I think, at the tail end of Tyler Ecker's career.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what the hell I was watching at that point. And,
Yeah.
Ecker wasn't that great. But Asiasi, as a true freshman, might be the best blocking tight end I've ever looked at in detail.
Slightly an indictment of Michigan's tight end blocking for the last decade and a half, but also a very encouraging sign regarding Devin Asiasi.
I mean, he's listed at almost 290 pounds. He's a true freshman. He's just so far ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Like, I think it says a lot about Devin Asiasi that he is so advanced at this point.
And he wasn't even an early enrollee. I mean, for him to be at this stage right now is kind of nuts.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. And then we should talk about Chris Evans, who I got frustrated with because he was getting
and he heard you.
He's getting tackled by the first guy every time. And then he rips off this run down to the goal line where he breaks 3 different tackles. He's explosive. I mostly like his cuts, but we got to talk about that one.
Oh, yeah.
There was a second half run where Chris Evans.
He saw a ghost or something, man. I have no other reasonable explanation for that.
Has an absolute cavern, and they've blocked it to a safety. So if he picks the right side of all the blocks, he's scoring a touchdown. And he decides to go outside the defensive end.
And he kind of initially gone in the right hole and then sort of stops in his
tracks
and tries to go out of it.
He was at the line of scrimmage.
I
and then
don't
he was
understand
it. Nope. He did break a tackle to get 6 yards. Yeah,
it was effective because it was a Michigan run against Rutgers, but it was pretty inexplicable.
But in general, I thought that I liked what he did. I gave Higdon some minuses for not following the play design on power, but the one time that he did hit a power really nicely, part of the reason that happened was that he waited until the last second to cut to the gap.
Yeah.
So I like that he's looking for cutback holes. He's not just going to robotically run the play. And as we go along here, I expect him to become. I mean, I don't think he's going to drop out of the rotation.
No.
Like, he had that one game where he was the number 2 back, and then he didn't get a single carry in the next game. And I was like, what's the deal with that? And I think he's good enough that you're going to see all 4 of those guys play significantly.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to drop any of them out of the rotation at this point.
Indeed. Illinois.
I mean, I looked over a game in which they had their top 2 quarterbacks, and it wasn't good, and it looks like they're not going to in this game. So that's bad for them.
The Twitter handle @BigTwen, who's a guy named Steve who writes for Illini Board, is a astute observer of Illini football.
Which one of a handful.
It's UMN work that, and he kind of thinks that it's going to be Jeff George Jr., the third-string walk-on redshirt freshman,
who I think wasn't even allowed to enroll at the normal time.
Yeah,
because,
2-star guy.
He's like a half gray shirt walk-on.
Yeah,
he's
so
probably only on the team because he's Jeff George's kid.
Yeah, so it's going to be a really tall task for them to move the ball. But if you look at their Pro Football Focus grades and actually their performance over the course of the season, this is a team that is actually better than Rutgers. And I know that their game last week didn't make it look like that.
Did not definitively show that.
Because they got outgained.
Yeah.
But they have a number of players. Both running backs are grading out positively.
Yeah.
And they've actually just ground people up on the ground, with the exception of Western Michigan, on which they got 3 yards on 15 carries. So I don't know how to explain that. But they've been hitting guys for 5-6 yards a carry. They've been playing Purdue and Rutgers, but it's still something for Illinois.
They've got half of an offensive line, which
do.
is one half more than what Rutgers had.
Yeah.
Especially considering they were playing Michigan.
But the problem is
they have a black hole at one of the guard spots. Gabe Meganson is grading out at negative 22.5 on Pro Football Focus right now, which is just abject.
And you saw this yourself.
He was not. I mean, this game, the Nebraska game I watched, it was even worse because Austin Schmidt was out for that game. So instead of playing guard, he was playing tackle, which just further exacerbated how bad he was. So he was a turnstile in pass protection, which will be mitigated a little bit by shifting inside, but also won't be mitigated because he's playing Michigan's DTs. And in the run game, they had all their success going the other way. So they really didn't even bother trying to run behind him because it was not going to go well.
And they don't have a particularly good fifth tackle. Like their fifth guy is pretty bad as well.
No, I mean the fifth guy who they've been playing is grading out pretty negatively in about a third of the snaps, and then they actually had the next guy down on the depth chart playing in this game, and he's coming out even on Pro Football Focus, but I thought he was awful.
Okay.
So, yeah, they don't have a guy there.
All right, so not really going to be a challenge for the run defense, and then you have got this third-string quarterback, so is this another shutout?
I mean, quite possibly. Because I mean, Malik Turner, their top wide receiver, he's good. He's a threat. But he had, watching the Nebraska game, he had a lot of trouble getting separation from Josh Kalu, Nebraska's top corner, when they were matched up against each other. He did almost all his damage against the other guys. And Michigan's got two corners better than Josh Kalu.
Right.
So.
But he's like a contested jump ball guy.
He is a guy who you just kind of put it into the area with him because he's 6'3", 205-ish, 210-ish. I mean, he's got a big frame, but.
So there's some Burbridge potential.
There could be that, but I don't think he's on Burbridge's level.
Okay.
And that's going to make it tough.
Well, and whoever the quarterback is won't be on Connor Cook's level.
No.
But I do kind of expect them to hit a 30-yard pass that's heavily contested.
Yeah, and they do have a couple of really quick running backs who, if you get them in space, could break off a chunk.
Kind of like the stuff that Barkley got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's at least some big play upside there that Rutgers maybe did not have, but I just don't see how they're going to consistently move the ball without a quarterback.
This is an enormous spread. It's 38, verging on 39 now, which is
bigger than the Rutgers spread.
It is. It's 10 points bigger than the Rutgers spread.
I mean, I know it's home versus road, but that doesn't cover that whole difference.
You got to figure that now that people have seen what Michigan did to Rutgers, and that Illinois got outgained by them.
And I know Bill Connolly's S&P projection was still north of that for Michigan.
But those S&P projections are just you got to stop looking at them because you'll go blind.
It's bad. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful.
So if you guys haven't heard this because you don't listen to the other podcasts. Bill Connolly at one point had numbers up this week that suggested that Michigan should be expected to give up 0.0 points to an average D1 offense, which he corrected to 0.9.
Slightly corrected.
So if they introduce rouges, Michigan's shutout streak is in jeopardy.
I would be in support of that. The Rouge angle, not Michigan's shutout streak going away.
So I have my theory that anytime a field goal attempt hits a goal post, it should be worth a point.
Yes.
So if it bounces out, you still get a point, but if it goes in, you get 4. That could spice up some late game stuff. And I think Air Force or BYU or someone put one off the top of the goal post. That should be 6. That should be a touchdown.
That's game over, man.
No, you get 6 points, and then you get to kick an extra point, and the kicker gets to go off with a crown on his head. That's what I think.
This is like the third time we've brought up this theory on this podcast, too.
Well, it's Rutgers/Illinois. What do you want?
It is. As the person who slogged through the film, yeah, I'm cool with getting through this quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And one interesting thing from the Rutgers game was the fact that we saw an expanded Pepcat package, which is what I'm calling Peppers at quarterback.
Sure, let's do that.
I mean,
it works.
It has a certain snappy ring to it.
It's catchy.
So he was going to throw, but they covered it, and then he decided, well, I'm Jabrill Peppers.
I'm going to juke this guy and run for a touchdown.
And they started running the arc read stuff where, instead of blocking to the interior or blocking the end, those guys go to the outside, and they're supposed to combat the shuffle that came in when Rich Rodriguez was at Michigan. And, the biggest problem with Peppers in that package is he's not pulling the ball enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying...
Just run the ball, dude!
I'm not just saying that as like a lunatic who wants to see Jabrill Peppers
only partially
touch the ball in every play. I mean, it's a factor.
It definitely plays in.
But I've seen him get 2 to 3 run reads the last couple weeks that, like, pull reads, and he hasn't pulled, and a couple of those worked out anyway, and a couple did not. And I don't know if they're just saving him or what, but...
Yeah, I've had
pull the dang ball.
The coaches might be telling him don't pull it unless it's really obvious.
Pull the dang ball.
But I would like to see him pull the dang ball, too.
But that package just seems... I don't know how you stop that.
No, I mean,
so
especially
talented.
if he's got any sort of viable threat to throw.
Yeah.
And they have to respect that.
You remember when Arkansas had Darren McFadden?
Yes, and Felix Jones.
Well, and they had that package.
Yes,
that's
it was
what that reminds me.
unstoppable.
It was.
Yeah.
And McFadden could throw like a tiny little bit, and
Yeah.
it was enough. And the thing is, they leave Spade out there, so you can't make a defensive substitution based on the idea that it's definitely going to be a run.
Yeah, because Michigan's put Peppers at a bunch of other spots too.
So I look forward to that expanding. I think we're going to see it this week against Illinois completely unnecessarily. But
over/under on Spate receiving touchdowns this year?
0.
Darn.
Can't go -1.
I really want to see it.
I mean,
it's going to have to involve him standing all alone in the end zone.
I think Spate is going to throw a pass from that formation.
Maybe a transcontinental to Peppers.
Well, I think they'll do the thing
Might be too obvious.
where they do the Peppers will run out to the edge and they do a reverse and then they toss it back to Spate.
Yeah,
that's what I think we're going to see that. But he's not going to catch a touchdown. Like, come on.
I want to see it, man.
I know you do. You can't always get what you want.
It's like Peppers Bowls, man.
Should we talk about Michigan State? That seems like fun.
Sure, why not? They're pretty bad.
They are, and we had a segment on TKA this weekend just kind of talking about it. And
just pointing and laughing.
Well, we're trying to analyze why they were so bad, and I think part of it is the fact that they weren't actually that good last year.
Yes.
So they're in one possession games with Purdue and Illinois. Not Purdue. Yes, Purdue. Purdue and Rutgers.
Yeah. Rutgers spiked the ball on 4th down.
Yeah. Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Glad we can work that back in here.
You're just completely disrupting my train of thought.
Totally broke the
flow
by bringing up Rutgers spiking the dang ball on 4th down.
But, I mean, they've lost so much off that defensive line, and they're just horrendous at getting to the quarterback now.
Yeah, I mean, it's Malik McDowell or bust.
Almost literally.
Yeah.
Because their secondary has a boat anchor in it named Demetrius Cox, who just
he's really bad.
Everybody throws at him on every down, and he can't cover the way you need to cover as a cover 4 team.
Yeah.
So those guys will get matched up against slot receivers. And, earlier this year, I think Ian Boyd had an interesting article on SB Nation about whether, the Narduzzi defense had been kind of downloaded and figured out.
Yeah. And for the most part, it seems like that's kind of the case.
Yeah, because guess what Narduzzi's doing at Pitt? He's winning with offense, and the defense is terrible. So, I mean, they
just like we all expected.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Penn State 42-39, right?
Yeah.
So they've got a killer run game, but they can't stop anybody. And I think you're seeing shades of that at Michigan State as well, because Nicholson, Cox, those guys they aren't NFL players. And if you put your best receiver in the slot and just kind of run a go route on him, you're going to have success if you can protect.
Yeah.
And Michigan State can't get to the quarterback.
I mean, even the guys who were really good at safety for them a few years ago started to struggle a couple years ago when teams were figuring out that you just need to run verticals out of the slot.
Yeah, like they gave up a ton of points to Oregon. They gave up a ton of points to Baylor, They gave up a ton of points to Ohio State that one year. And
that was with better defensive backs.
Yeah, and so you could kind of see this coming. I didn't think it would be as severe.
I don't think anybody thought it would be this severe. I mean, hoped and dreamed, but not thought.
But I think when you look at it, like in retrospect, it's pretty obvious because they brought in 2 grad transfers last year. And
at DT.
At defensive tackle, and one of them was from Delaware. I don't know how you give up that beautiful helmet and go to Michigan State, but the guy did.
And the other was a guy who did not play very much at Nebraska.
And Nebraska, and defensive line is such a rotation-heavy position.
If you're not getting time as a fourth-year player, you're probably not that good.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could kind of see it coming, especially because, they moved Keeler to center, and that had to be a big red flag because, like, Machado couldn't play at all last year. And they
already had Brian Allen, who you thought would play there.
Yeah. And Machado's a guy who was a JUCO recruit who Michigan State flipped away from Purdue on signing day. So, like, his optics are terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, you're voluntarily putting him in the lineup. What does that say about the rest of your line? I think we've seen that borne out.
Yeah, I mean, Keeler's already played, I think, 3 different positions this year.
Yeah.
Because he's played both tackle spots in addition to center.
So, give me the S&P plus line for the Michigan State game.
Michigan is favored to win 40.2 points to 6.5 points.
I love this
At
year.
Michigan State. It's unbelievable.
Oh, man. So things are going slightly better than they were a couple years ago.
Yeah, the last time that I traveled to cover a game to Michigan State, Heiko and I packed a 5th of bourbon in the trunk in anticipation of how that would go, and we were right to do that.
Yeah.
We did set up a DD for the way home. We did not, totally do this recklessly.
Sure.
But, I don't think we'll be packing bourbon this time.
Well,
I mean, we might, but it'll be celebratory
champagne.
bourbon and not, not drown your sadness bourbon.
Yeah. For the record, teams favored by 25 or more points in S&P are 1,506.
That seems good.
So, I mean, it shouldn't be close. I don't think. I mean, any game other than Iowa is going to be remotely a threat because I know Indiana has a defense this year. I always expect to be struck by a lightning bolt when I say that. But their quarterback is just too turnover prone, and they've had struggles on the offensive line, especially with Don Brown around now. Like I think a lot of the problems last year were structural.
Well, and Feeney's been hurt, which for them, if they don't get him back in the lineup,
and they didn't have Glasgow or Monet last year, so
yeah,
I'm not.
And Michigan still somehow managed to win that game. So
but it was very much a managed to win situation.
Yeah, it was not fun.
I'm not expecting a replay of that. So.
No.
Should be a fun close to the season, and then of course football Armageddon 2 in Columbus.
The highest ranked S&P team they have left on the schedule before the game is Iowa.
Yep, and they are ranked. What are they ranked?
36th, and they beat Rutgers by 7 points over a 60-minute football game.
Oh man, I feel
every time someone tries to tell me that Iowa is at least a threat, I just bring that up. It's not the losses; it's the victory over Rutgers.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we gotta get to a break. We're gonna come back. Is Ed here yet? No. We're gonna come back on the other side with Craig Ross.
Did you know the black and white striped referee uniform seen on the field today was created in Moe's? In the early days of football, officials wore white dress shirts, bow ties, and beret-type hats. But when an Arizona quarterback confused Ypsilanti's Lloyd Olds for a player and mistakenly passed him the ball, he asked his friend George J. Moe to make a distinctive shirt to set him apart. The new striped uniform was effective, but hated by fans. Olds was met with plenty of boos from the crowd when he first wore it in 1921, and more when he called targeting. Moe's Sports Shop is celebrating 100 years of outfitting the Michigan faithful. Visit us at our original 1915 location at 711 North University or online at mosportshops.com.
Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Schembechler, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need one shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing at one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com.
The places you'll go may seem far from Ann Arbor. From San Francisco to St. Louis to Shanghai. But as members of the Alumni Association, we're never far. Because Michigan is more than a place. It's a mindset that connects us. For those who leave Michigan, but for whom Michigan never leaves, this is where you belong. The Alumni Association of the University of Michigan. Join today at umalumni.com.
If you need a place to stay in Ann Arbor and don't want to be stuck out by I-94, there's a new hotel downtown, and the owners, who should be well known to the Michigan community, have asked our help to get the word out. The Martin family, yes, that Martin family, recently opened the Residence Inn Ann Arbor downtown, just a block from Main Street and a short walk to Michigan Stadium. They're competitively priced and offer a free hot breakfast, free Wi-Fi, fully equipped kitchen in every suite, and an indoor pool. That's the Residence Inn Ann Arbor downtown.
You wanna do? I can't tell you who to sock it to. It's your thing.
I don't think we should have played that right before you bring Craig Ross on. Craig Ross is
that?
Well, you have some explosive opinions.
I do.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I have opinions. I don't know if they're
Well, we went to the bar last night, and
Yeah.
you just fought with Craig with Ed the whole time.
Yeah, because everything Ed knows is wrong. I mean, so that's
I
you
can't-
know. So
I
I
can't
just have
disagree
to.
with that.
I just have to take the opposite point of view, and then the odds are good. I'll be right.
He's like your personal Costanza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
You're my personal Costanza.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks.
so
He can't even be mad at me because I brought him a loaf of challah that my wife baked him.
yeah. Does that?
No, I could be appreciative of your wife and
Oh,
mad at
okay.
you.
Yeah,
That is
that's true.
possible.
Ed doesn't listen to these, does he?
I hope not.
Okay. I hope not too. You guys were talking. Were you actually saying that Illinois was going to do something in this game?
No, I didn't.
No.
That they would
No,
have
we
like
would never
one
say that.
30-yard play or something?
Well, yeah, I thought that they're
Ain't happening.
They might throw like a contested ball to Malik Turner.
I was one of the 3 people in the Northern Hemisphere who watched the Illinois-Rutgers game.
Yeah, I was the other one.
Okay. and
I mean, I didn't watch the second half. But
well, I did. I
my
watched
God.
it all, and you know,
Goodness.
and the scary part of that is that Rutgers actually outgained
Yeah.
Illinois in that game. And
got 450 yards.
No, 387.
387.
387 to about 320.
I was thinking about the
Ohio
State
State Wisconsin game. Yeah. So Illinois is bad. I mean, they were ahead.
They are bad.
17-7 in the fourth quarter, and then there was a pick six, which made the final score 24-7. So Rutgers was actually driving. I think Rutgers also fumbled on the Illinois 1-yard line at one point.
I mean, we know that
They're
Illinois
bad.
is bad.
And they had their second-team quarterback at the time, who's terrible, and now they've got the third-team quarterback.
Well, so I was merely asserting that their wide receiver was the kind of guy who might go get up and get a 30-yard like prayer heave from the third-string quarterback. He's not like a 5'9" slot guy.
Maybe in the fourth quarter when they're down 40.
I
But
love that Craig is refusing to cede like this tiny little bit of ground. We're like, they might have one good play.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. So anyway, the other thing we're talking about football that I think maybe even Michigan fans have misperceived or underestimated is that really our non-conference schedule wasn't that bad this year. Now, when we were on our radio show earlier and I said Hawaii wasn't that terrible, I took a lot of heat.
You did.
And Hawaii has turned out to be not that terrible.
They're 3-3.
Right, and they're averaging 36 points a game aside from the Michigan game. And one of their losses is to UNLV 41-38. They beat San Jose State. They beat Nevada. And so they're actually bad, but not as bad as
significantly better than Rutgers.
But probably, yeah, significantly better than Rutgers. And then,
this is our baseline for
That's
everything.
not even faint praise.
It's the lowest baseline possible.
Right. And then you got UCF. They beat ECU 47-29. ECU, I think, beat North Carolina State earlier in the year. So they've played reasonable. They lost to Maryland in overtime. And then, of course, Colorado has one loss outside of us, and that's a close game to USC. So I think we actually played a sort of okay non-conference schedule, even though the perception was they were meatballs.
Yeah.
They weren't really.
And I think the big thing there is Colorado, which didn't just beat Arizona State, they absolutely laid it on them.
Yeah.
Like they outgained them by 300 or 400 yards in that game. And so They have a legit secondary. They have a legit nose tackle. That defense is actually pretty good. And then even the backup quarterback who came in against Michigan, and everybody was like, oh, this guy's terrible. He's the only reason that you guys won that game. And he just goes off and he just rips Oregon for like 500 yards by himself. So obviously they've got something going there. And we were talking about this a little bit in the break. Mike McIntyre, who's their coach, now has a really intriguing resume for a big school. Because before he went to Colorado, he got San Jose State to 10-2. And, San Jose State is currently the employer of Al Borges. So that's kind of like, it kind of tells you like where their level is in college football.
Although he's also built that program to the point where you might just want to stay there and see this through, and that with the way the Pac-12 is kind of shaking out.
I don't know.
It's tough, but it's not like Colorado does not have a tradition of being good at football.
Yeah, but their recruiting base is non-existent.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, they used to recruit. I mean, Colorado, I don't know, in the last 30 years has had teams that were top 5, top 10 teams.
Well, they used to recruit a lot out of L.A., and that was when USC was not doing that well.
Well,
what?
I mean, is that not what's happening right now?
Yeah, okay. That's a fair point. It's just a very tough environment for them because the in-state kids don't even want to stay.
I normally think he would flee, but it just seems like with the way the Pac-12 is shaking out and the fact that both LA schools look like they might be taking a dip, that's not as bad of a spot to be in.
And I assume one of the LA schools is in the Tom Herman lottery.
I wouldn't.
I mean,
be
everybody's
surprised.
going to throw their hat in there at least.
Well, I just think
they may be one of the plausibles, right?
I mean, if you look at the available head coaches outside of Tom Herman, and you know that there are going to be a bunch of openings this year. You could see Texas open, LSU's already open.
I mean, it's Tom Herman and PJ Fleck.
Right.
And
Fleck, I mean, he's at Western, so but I think that someone's going to take a look at Mike McIntyre. I expect that he gets a job bigger than you would expect this offseason. Because this Colorado team is legit. It's legit.
Yeah, they're good.
Yes, they are. The other thing that was interesting to me is you guys are, I mean, this stunned me, this number that on the S&P numbers that
they're absurd.
That Michigan is 6 teams have lost out of 1,506 games with numbers like that.
Yeah. Well, if they're a 25-point favorite on S&P, they just
it's 1,506.
Yep.
Yeah, and I still have paranoia about Michigan State. I have paranoia about Michigan State.
I mean, watched them play.
I admit, but I don't think I'm that atypical of the Michigan fan base. Yeah, I've watched them play. They're terrible. I've watched Iowa play. They're not very good. But I'm still paranoid about both those games, more so than the Indiana game. Don't ask me why, even though I know that's not logical. But, I mean, you don't have this sense.
Iowa 14, Rutgers 7.
Yeah,
Iowa 14.
I know.
Rutgers
You're
7.
being logical, but get into your sort of lizard-like self, that sort of lizard-like quality.
Yeah. I've watched the Damian Terry interception happen live, and all fear just washed away at that
moment. So there's nothing, Brian, that doesn't sort of bother you and doesn't say,
I'll get nervous when we pull into Park there.
Okay.
Because the last time I was there, things went so poorly.
Well,
but until that moment, no.
The one thing that gives me pause is Wilton Spate has been, overdue for like a 3-interception game. But even if they do throw 3 interceptions, I mean, isn't MSU just going to throw them right back? Possibly on the next play.
Yeah, that's possible. But if you lose but if you're 0-3 in interceptions, your odds of winning that game, I don't care what S&P says, is pretty slim.
Nah, it's probably about 75%.
No. It's probably more like 1 or 2%.
Well, I mean, they fail the eye test, they fail the stat test.
I know they do, but I agree with you. Both those things are absolutely undeniable.
They lost at home to Northwestern.
And the one thing, if Spate starts out terribly and it's just not going that well, Michigan can clam up and probably just keep running the ball. They can bring Peppers in and kind of equalize that way. And then if you do get in kind of a punt fest, Michigan's returner is the best in the country. And eventually he's just going to put you over the top. Because how many points is Michigan State really going to score here?
Yeah, I know. I don't think much. I mean, that's the one thing. I just don't see them moving the ball.
They can't even get L.J. Scott going.
Well, they don't play L.J.
They're not
Scott.
even playing him.
I mean, he had 3 carries last week. And was it Sam Webb for 25 yards, which isn't bad, but
LJ Scott's to be happy. They're keeping mileage off his legs for the NFL.
Maybe that's right. Now, was it you or Sam, Brian, that said that he just can't block, and that's why they've kept him out? But to me, that seems. What, in first and second down they can't use?
Yeah, and block for what exactly?
Yeah. I mean, but that's
unless they're asking him to block for himself, they should be giving the dude the ball.
They use a fullback, so if they have like a problem with that, they can just send him out of the backfield, and then the fullback can block. Like, a running back not blocking is maybe why you don't get him as many carries as you would otherwise, but 3 carries in consecutive weeks for LJ Scott. I mean, it just makes me think that there's something up there.
Yeah, I that's what I'm thinking, that there's something up because, I mean, to me, you look at him and he's good, and so I don't know why he's getting 3 carries. So.
I mean, they just kind of seem in a shambles that we haven't seen since Bobby Williams was around. They're moving guys everywhere. Like they flipped a guy from the offensive line to defensive tackle, and they started him last week, which is a huge no-no. They did it at corner with a freshman. Mm-hmm. They started a freshman wide receiver at corner last week. He had a pick 6, but Clayton Thorson gives, and he also gives. Yeah. So I mean, I didn't expect it to be this bad, but now that it's in front of my face, it makes some sense.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys? I don't know if you talked about this at all, but I mean, what's your instinct about Ohio State at the end? I mean, I have.
I don't want to say. I don't want to say it out loud.
No.
Well, I will. I mean, I think we're going to win that game. I think we're a better team than Ohio State, and so there's something that bothers me about the sort of Iowa MSU games, but this one, Ohio State, I feel really comfortable about. Our numbers are better. Yeah, I think we're going to win that game.
I mean, you can go into it like thinking that we might win the game, but you can't be comfortable.
I feel comfortable we're going to win that game.
Greg.
So
this is why we shouldn't have played the song.
So in any event, I mean, the numbers are there. The look test is there. I mean, we have a better. I see that they'll have a hard time moving the ball against us, and their defense. I mean, they give up 450 yards to a Wisconsin team that can't move the ball against us.
The only problem with that is that it was excellent practice for Michigan, so they hadn't gone up against a pro-style offense, I think, all year. They get Wisconsin, which is a pretty close analog to Harbaugh, and they had problems with the jet sweeps that they fixed in the second half. Mm-hmm. They had problems with some of those interior runs that did get better. They had like 300 yards before halftime, and then they had the 1 touchdown drive afterwards and didn't really do anything else. So I kind of expect to get the second half Ohio State defense because I think the adjustments that they had to make. I mean, don't get me wrong, that game greatly improved my personal outlook for the game.
And Wisconsin's run game is a lot more simple than Michigan's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy simple, but it's not nearly as complex as what Harbaugh puts.
Yeah, it's not Harbaugh, but also like with the Newsome injury, that really kind of brings me down.
Yeah. Well, that of course those are the two things. I mean, one is our quarterback play going to be consistent enough, and 2, what happens at left tackle in particular.
Well, because they've got Hubbard and Lewis, who are a quality pair of DEs, and now they've been working in Nick Bosa as both a rotation DE and also has a nickel defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And that was going really well for them, and that worries the hell out of me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super concerned about the interior of the line, but Bushel Beatty, I mentioned this a couple times on the blog this week. He only was in there for 15 pass protection snaps, and he got straight up beat twice against Rutgers. So we don't have a sample size yet to know whether that's going to be a huge problem.
But the early returns are not good.
Yeah, and we'll get a lot more data this weekend because he's going up.
I also felt that early in the game, Bredesen, when he was in at left guard, struggled.
Yeah, he
did not know what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed you're right, did not understand assignments or something. I'm not sure.
I think they wanted to rest Braden in this game if they could, and then after the first couple drives, they're like, all right, we got to put him back in. And Braden had a great game, but Bredesen was a little bit of a downer because you kind of come in and you hearing so much about him maybe being Mason Cole 2.0, and if that's the case, then yeah, he's an awesome option to have as a 6th or 7th offensive lineman, but I just don't. It hasn't worked out yet,
and it will.
I'm sure.
I think he'll be a good.
Yeah,
player
I'm sure he'll be a
eventually,
good player, but he looks like a freshman who definitely should be redshirted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in any event, I know that it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I feel, oddly enough, more comfortable about Ohio State than either.
That is such a Craig take.
I know.
Weren't you last year? You were like, no, Michigan's basketball defense is fine.
I was wrong about that.
You were saying it like late in the season, and I was like, there's several points worse than Rutgers in 2-point defense. And you're like, no, I watched the tape. It's fine.
Well, I was wrong.
All right.
Occasionally I'm wrong.
Occasionally.
Probably 2/3 of the time, but I was wrong about that one. That's for sure. But yeah, have you guys talked about basketball?
We have not. I honestly haven't thought about it much this year because
I'm just starting to think about it, and I'm technically the basketball dude. So
no, it's not a technicality.
I am the basketball dude, and I'm just beginning to do that switch over in my brain.
Technically the basketball dude.
Well, do you want to talk something?
Yeah, we can definitely talk some basketball.
Because I think it's real interesting. I mean, the thing that struck me last year was in the second half of the season, we just could not get Duncan Robinson an open look. And to some extent, I think that was because he's limited. He's not going to create his own shots ever. But to some extent, I also felt that as the season wore on, I kept thinking, Derek Walton's more of a two-guard. And he's not really a guy who breaks down defenses in the half court. And he also is a good shooter and the best 6-foot rebounder probably in the history of the game. I mean, he may be. I mean, I've never seen a 6-foot guy who, especially on the defensive end, who goes after the ball the way.
How tall was Oscar Robertson?
He was about 6'6", 6'5".
Okay.
Yeah, but he was a whole different thing. And so and I don't see any reason why they couldn't play him over at the 2 with Xavier Simpson at the point. And I think that might
Simpson shooting could be a serious.
Well, his shooting is an issue. I mean, I watched him in practice. Whatever.
He was not lighting up the open practice.
Yeah, he was like, I counted at one point 1 for 14 from 15 to 60 with no one checking him. But he was a scorer in high school. He had 65 and 59 points.
Yeah, one playoff within a 2-week span.
Right, and so he was a scorer, but from what I've seen, he doesn't look like a shooter. But I'm not sure that I think you could play 2 small guards, and I think you could play.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to because the only 3 guys who you can play in the backcourt are those 2 guys and Rockman.
Yeah. Well, and that works with the borderline pack line that they're going to be running anyway. You want guys who can move quickly from assignment to assignment, stay in front of their man, and pressure the ball. So you can play 2-point guards out there.
Yeah.
Beeline actually talked about the UConn championship team from a few years ago that
they were
essentially
small,
was a 2-point team.
Yeah.
As a comparable to what they could look like out there quite a bit. And he sort of hinted that the 2-point guard lineup is something that you would see more than you'd expect.
Well, they got to play it at least 10 minutes a game unless they're not going to take Rockman.
It sounds like it's going to be more like half the game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Ace. I think that's what it's going to evolve to. You're going to see 2 points or 2 1 point and a quasi point from my point of view in the game with Rockman, getting his minutes, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that the upside to this may be more good looks for Duncan Robinson. And to me, that's really what has to happen for this team to.
Well, I think
improve.
Part of the reason that we saw that nobody had to leave him, and part of that was because Walton was so terrible from within the arc that he's shooting like 35% or something.
Almost exactly right. I think
nobody's going to sag off anybody when that happens, and I think that goes back to Walton's injuries. Like he hasn't. I think you're right about how he wasn't much of a point guard the last 2 years, but as a freshman, he looked really promising. He was explosive to the bucket. He actually won a couple games. Yeah. That Nebraska game where he got to the bucket, he did against Michigan State.
Yeah.
Like
those were more transition opportunities though than half-court finishes at the rim.
Yeah, but he took advantage of a guy and he got over and he got to the bucket before the help defense could get there. Took contact and finished, and we haven't seen that from him ever since the foot injury, really.
Yeah, last year the injury stopped being something that held up as an excuse as far as I was concerned, and I think it's just a problem at this point.
I'm with Ace on this. I think it's just a problem, and that's why I think they may be better off running because he is a good shooter. He has a nice three-point shot, and there's much in his game that is really good.
Well,
but
he needs to develop a mid-range game, and by a pull-up game.
Ideally.
Bad shots. But if those are the only shots he can get,
they're better than getting packed at the rim.
Yeah. But we haven't really talked about Mertz McGarry, as I like to call him, because I mean he's the key to the season, right? He's a legit 7 foot tall. He has skills. He's not a shooter, but he's kind of a Euro big man, and he has much more defensive upside than Mark Denal. And he's got to play. He's got to start. And if he's not, then I'm looking at this as like another squeeze into the tournament kind of season.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I mean, his upside seems huge from what we saw last year, and he wasn't very strong last year. So I have huge hopes that he's going to be our primary guy, or at least getting 25, 28 minutes, a game. And if he does and can, I also think he may be a better offensive player than Denal.
He's a much better finisher at the rim.
Right.
Denal can't get up to the rim, so he has difficulties finishing. There were so many pick and roll opportunities where he couldn't convert, and we haven't seen that with McGarry. I keep calling him McGarry. Wagner.
Wagner.
Because he can finish with both hands, and he's got the size where you can't block him because he's up to the rim too quickly.
Yeah, I mean the good news is maybe Michigan's going to be more aggressive about fouling, and not giving up layups down in the paint. I mean, they do have a lot of minutes to give because I think one of the two freshmen,
one of the two freshmen.
I think Austin Davis is going to play.
I agree. I think Austin Davis is more ready, and so I think you've got lots of fouls to give. Plus, you still got DJ Wilson if you're desperate for a big guy. So you got fouls to give, and so I'm optimistic that they'll look a little bit different.
Well,
with Donlin doesn't seem reticent about fouling as Beeline.
Oh, no,
has.
not at all. Nobody is as reticent as Beeline when it comes to the whole fouling.
Well, the thing where they're talking about how they let him run a practice,
that is insanely out of character for Beeline.
Yeah, but I think
it says a lot.
Beeline had this kind of mid-Michigan career epiphany when they had Darius Morris. They moved to a ton of pick and roll.
Yeah, which was really pretty unusual for him.
Yeah, and they got to the Final Four because of it. And I think we're going through another Beeline looked at his program and he's like, you know what, this isn't cutting it. And
we don't play defense.
Yeah, he's a control freak, but he's remarkably able to shift gears for a control freak. So I fully believe that Billy Donlin is the defensive coordinator and that he has got a lot more authority than a random coach was. And his track record as a defensive coach at Wright State was really, really good for a team that was starting a 6'5" center most of the time.
Yeah, no.
6'6" maybe.
Yeah.
But they simply had no size, and they were able to crack the top 100. They were better than Michigan in defense. They were top 40 one year, weren't they?
Yes, they were a couple of years.
Which is, I think, the theoretical ceiling for a defense at that level of college basketball.
Well, if Michigan could become a top 40 defensive team, we would probably have something going this year. Because I do think there's enough there. There's enough firepower there to score points. Maybe not like in the Stauskas years, but there's enough there.
Yeah, there's enough, especially if you get Irvin back to that form he had late in his sophomore year.
They do really need him to find his three-point shot back because this team is really light on shooters for a Beeline team. Really light. It is Duncan Robinson, Derek Walton, Zach Irvin, and that's about it.
Mar got up to 36 last year, so he's acceptable.
Yes.
So if he can increment that a little bit more, but if he can just maintain, that's a guy who if he gets an open three.
It's light on shooters if we don't have a paint game. If we have some sort of game in the paint, there's probably enough shooters.
Yeah, they needed it to function like it did with Morris, where the pick and roll really is working.
And I think
Hopefully Simpson and Wagner can get that
Wagner
going.
is the guy who's going to actually be a plus player on that pick and roll. So,
Yep.
I mean, it looks like a tournament team. I don't know if it's going to be like a 10 seed or a 5 seed, but that seems like the reasonable range.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should make the tournament. Beyond that, I don't know. But, I mean, you'll have a better guess. I mean, usually you can tell after, I don't know, 2 games. I mean, after 2 games, you get a sense about
2 games.
2 games usually you can
like
tell.
against like Northwood.
Yeah,
Armstrong State.
You know,
is
the
first
thing is,
game.
I say this. It seems like once a year is that you play against yourself, and you can usually tell the sort of synergy that exists within a team. I mean, the first time I saw Glenn Robinson playing with Tim Hardaway, it was obvious that those teams were going to be great because they had 2 things.
Yeah, but you just said you're like wrong 2/3 of the time.
Well, not about basketball, except for defense. But I mean, you recall on radio the first time I saw those guys play together. I came in and I said, "Look, you got 2 things here that you never get: a player who's the grease in the system, which was Glenn, a guy who doesn't need the ball."
Yeah.
And a guy who can always get a shot because he has an actual jump shot. Who has an actual jump shot anymore?
Well, they're not supposed to. Like, that's not a good shot, so you're not supposed to have one.
Well, Hardaway did, so he could always get a shot off.
Yeah, but they
at
were
the end of
often
the-
bad shots.
Well, look at those games, and you'll see that they always got a decent look at the end of the clock.
That was also Trey a lot of the time.
And
too.
Trey to some extent too, but in any event, so you can tell after 2 games what a team's going to be like.
You sound so reasonable, and then you pull this out. Like, last year it was like you'd rather have 6 guys than 10 on a basketball team.
I'm still with that. I still think that you're better off.
What about 4?
No, you need
more than 4.
You need more
Okay.
than 4. You need more than 4. But I think 6 or 7 is better than 9. That's for sure.
All right.
Well,
it's been lovely to talk to you, Craig.
Yeah.
We'll definitely see you again.
I'll see you again.
Both on the podcast and on WTK.
Thanks.
We got to take one more
guys.
break. We're coming back. A very exciting guest for us, Ed Muransky, Big Ed, who indeed lives up to his nickname.
In 1934, a salesman from Champion Sportswear walked into Moe's Sports Shop. There, he teamed up with George J. Moe to create the very first University of Michigan branded shirt. After seeing the high demand for this product, Champion went to the other Big Ten schools with the same proposal, and the collegiate apparel industry was born. Moe Sports Shops is celebrating 100 years of outfitting the Michigan faithful. Visit us at our original 1915 location at 711 North University or online at 100years.mo. That's 100years.moe. It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle, whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, or trying to collect sizes and payment for a family reunion. UGP is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with our easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing down people to pay, or wasting time trying to sort out the order. We'll set it up and you can just sit back and relax. We can even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit us at any of our convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com. In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages $90,000. It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
What would make your next visit to a Michigan game even better? How about getting together with your family and friends for a great tailgate with no effort? It's so easy thanks to Tailgater Concierge. Just go to tailgaterconcierge.com and choose one of their most popular packages or create a customer order to fit your specific needs. They will take care of the rest by setting up your tailgate right across from the stadium on Main Street and cleaning up afterwards to ensure you are on time for kickoff. Tailgater Concierge, an easier way to tailgate.
Welcome back to the MGO podcast live at the Bow Store on Main Street. We have a very special guest for us, former Michigan defensive lineman.
Offensive lineman.
Big Ed Muransky.
Thank you. That means I look athletic now. Thank you. Everyone used to say offensive linemen are the bulbous ones, and the defensive are the
there's
more
a couple
athletic. So thank you very much.
Hanging around the program that have expanded with age. Not that I'm any place to talk, but yes, offensive lineman Ed Muransky, who of course played for Bow. With some very successful teams. We did an event in Cleveland together with you and Andy
Cannavino was there, yeah, our captain.
Yeah. So we're in the Bow Store. Do you have like a favorite Bow story? I mean, this isn't on the radio, so you can.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's he obviously, besides being our head coach, was a father figure to me. So there were so many great stories that are so boring out there that I don't want to repeat them. So obviously everybody's out there wanting to hear a good, funny one. So,
yeah. We can go for a heartwarming one.
Yeah,
as well.
We'll do a heartwarming one too. But Bo had a little trouble for a few years winning a bowl game.
Yes, we're aware.
So my junior year, we had one of the great Michigan teams in history. Great defense and we played Washington and beat them in the Rose Bowl, Bo's first victory in 1981, January 1st of 1981. And we were out there obviously a lot. So when I was out there my freshman year, a lot of the upperclassmen kind of showed you the way, kind of maybe where to have a libation or two.
Yeah.
And then when you were a junior, you really knew where to go. And through the years, guys after games did not have much to celebrate. So after that Rose Bowl, we had a heck of a lot to celebrate. And let's just say I found myself into an establishment with all of my friends. And at about, I would guess it was about 2:20 in the morning.
About
2:20. The establishment was closed. All my friends from my team left me. I was the last person there. Obviously was in no shape to drive, did not have a car because we were in Pasadena, California. And a nice gentleman who loved Michigan said, I will give you a ride home. So that was nice. And we walked outside, and I had this kind of lace. It looked like an altar top on, 2:30 in the morning.
Can we talk about the shirt?
It was given to me by a priest in Ann Arbor. It was a blessed shirt. He said we were going to win the Rose Bowl. So when I got back to the hotel, the Huntington Sheraton, I put the shirt on afterwards to celebrate because he had passed away.
Oh.
And we had a hell of a night in it. And when I got to the guy's car, it was not a car, it was a motorcycle. So I did not have any other way to get back to the Huntington Sheraton. So I continued to get on the back without a helmet. And I rode back to the Huntington Sheraton, figured that everyone was sleeping. So much to my dismay, as I was pulling up, my dear coach, one Bo Schembechler, was walking out of the Huntington Sheraton with Butch Woolfolk, with a cigar in his mouth, seeing me get off of this motorcycle. So you could imagine now, up to this point, as a freshman and sophomore, you're scared to death of Bo.
Yeah.
At that point, negative reinforcement was a lot of coaching, not just on his level, but on all of our coaches. You were always afraid of losing your spot. And at that moment, it kind of flashed like, I know we just won the game, but there's Bo Schembechler. I'm probably not going to play next year. But, Butch Woolfolk just had like 600 yards rushing, and most of them were over me. So I kind of thought I was okay. And Bo came out and saw me get off the motorcycle, and without blinking, took the cigar out of his mouth and looked at me, and he said, "That was one hell of a game, Muransky." and from that moment on, I knew that I was kind of A-okay at Michigan. He got into the car with Butch. I think they were on the Today Show. Butch was the MVP of the game, and he was that was at that moment I could kind of breathe. But he was a father figure. He loved you. He was an authoritative figure. the heartwarming story, because my son told me we were going to the Bo store on the way up here, and that he loved that when I got into Michigan, the most successful person I knew coming out of Youngstown, Ohio, was my uncle, who was a pharmacist. My Uncle Ray lives in California right now, and I loved science. I loved pharmacy. I didn't love pharmacy. I didn't know much about it, but I knew he lived a better life than I knew of anyone else that lived. And my mother said, you're going to go to school to learn something. Why not? You're good at all that stuff. So I went into pharmacy. Michigan had a great doctor of pharmacy program, and Bo took a great love that I had the scores and the grades, that he had someone in the doctor of pharmacy program. So whenever I needed any type of tutoring or class change or whatever for the first 2 years, or if I needed an internship, Bo was right on it. So the heartwarming piece was going into our third year. We had a pharmacology lab that every PharmD student had to take, and it was offered Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 o'clock at night, right? So in looking at it, obviously we had to change that because that's when practice was. So like every other time, I would go down, talk to George Huey, who was our academic person. I would tell Bo what was going on. Bo said, I will talk to the dean of pharmacy. He said, listen, you're going to have training table. You're going to go right and take this lab. You're going to have to go 7:30 to 10:30. Don't dilly-dally around. This is a mandatory thing.
Did he actually say dilly-dally?
Right? Dilly-dally.
Dilly-dally was
the big word back then in the 70s. So about 7 or 8 days go by, and I'm worried because, if you didn't get into classes and, where that class sat, and if I had to move some things around, like, if you didn't get in a class, you didn't get in a class. So Mary Passig called me on a Monday morning. Normally that meant I was in trouble, but I kind of knew. She said, Bo wants to see you, in a very kind of melancholy way. And I said, oh, boy, what's going on? Because, like, when he didn't want to talk to you, you knew he was really in trouble. And he got me in his office, and he was all white. And he really, really felt bad of what he was about to tell me. And I had just gone through a whole summer of interning as a pharmacist. Mm-hmm. The whole summer was like, there's no damn way I'm going to be a pharmacist. And much as I liked it in school, I just couldn't picture myself in this room my whole life, kind of mixing stuff and doing all of that anyway. And he said, close the door. He said, I have some news for you. It was like, I didn't know he was going to tell me my mother passed away or what was going on. And he said, sit down. And almost like with tears in his eyes, he says, Muransky, you got to change your major. And it was, you could feel that he cared about you, and it wasn't BS. And that is how he felt about all of his players. And that's the type of guy that he recruited. That's why guys went through walls for him. He stayed in touch with guys to the day of his death. He was more interested in my son getting into law school than giving me a hug when he saw me. He was a father to all of us. He was a father to all of our families. So, you take a look at the legacy of that kind of guy, and what it takes for a Jim Harbaugh kind of to take that over and reconstruct it. There's more to it than what's on the field. And, you see it going on at Notre Dame, and you have a good football coach with a team collapsing underneath it. And, with even some of the other coaches, the last couple that have been here at Michigan that maybe are pretty good football coaches that don't have the whole package, kids today know it. And to me, that was Bo. Bo was the whole package. I have him on my mantle with my other, the relatives, my aunts and my godparents and my parents and my in-laws that really had everything to do with molding the person I was. He's right up there, forgetting about football, the man that I am today and how I treat people, how I raise my kids. It's all because of 4 or 5 people. Bo Schembechler is one of those people.
I mean, that's amazing. I think you just talked for 20 minutes straight, and it was riveting. So did you know Jim at all, or you, I know you guys didn't quite overlap, but you guys have been around the program forever. And like, how was he as a player, and as he was, coming up as a coach? Did you ever think he was going to be here, and how enthusiastic were you about that prospect?
So Jim Harbaugh's dad, Jack, coached on Bo's staff.
Yeah.
So prior to him leaving to go elsewhere, he was here for, I think, at least one of my years, maybe two. So when Jim and his brothers were at Ann Arbor Pioneer, I think, playing, they would come over to practice. So you know what college football players did to the Schembechlers of the world and the Harbaughs of the world. So although they had some fun with Rick Leach and a lot of us there, they might have been taped to a couple things and had some fun. So Jim has some great memories of some of us. And we have a lot of great memories with his mom and dad and Jim. He was a little bit younger, and Jim was recruited from the West Coast the year I was leaving. So
right.
he was here when Bubba and I were leaving, and we had a part in it of making sure that he was in the right hands, but was not here when he was here. He obviously had a lot more scrutiny by Bo because he was Jack's son,
mm-hmm.
and lived the dream of being Bo's quarterback for a while, and was in the doghouse and out of the doghouse, and left here as one of the great Michigan quarterbacks. He obviously was a great pro quarterback that had a good head, and all the time I felt that he was probably the heir apparent to Bo, and I think Bo kind of felt the same way. And there was that one comment he made a while back about, when he was at Stanford, and the classes weren't there, and it was taken out of context, which was BS, and he felt bad, and we felt bad. And then, there was, just one kind of misstep after another that our worlds did not align.
Yeah.
And, when we had the chance, when the 49ers kind of fell out of love and Jim fell out of love and the worlds aligned again, there aren't many Jim Harbaughs out there that love a university like he loves his Michigan, and kind of is a great coach but also gets his alma mater and gets the kids of today. And when you put all those three things together, boy, you have a special product, and it's different today. I have a chance to grow up in Youngstown, Ohio, where the Stoopses are from and the Pellinis are from. And when you talk to Bobby Stoops, that's been at Oklahoma since 1999, the same place for 17 years, and talk to him about the kids back then that he recruited and how you went into their living room and knew their families and how we were recruited compared to the kids of 2016 and 17, it's almost like a different recruiting world. So
mm-hmm.
to have a guy at the helm at Michigan that understands that Jumpman is going to make a difference in recruiting and the excitement in the program, to have a guy that could get the talent out of the kids that were here, out of a regime that recruited the same kids that couldn't, and then you tie that into a guy that kind of gets the history of Michigan and the love that we all have. We are so damn lucky that all of those things align, that from my standpoint, is this our year to do it all? I sure hope it is, but I'm so proud to be a Michigan man and to hold my head up high into what Jim is doing, that football's football and stuff's going to happen, but he's doing it the right way. He's recruiting the right kind of kids. They're playing their ass off every Saturday. He's recruiting and doing it the right way, and it's all you could ask for. And, the next couple of years are going to be very interesting, guys.
It is, and, in the course of doing this job, I've met, Marlon Jackson and Vincent Smith and a lot of other Michigan alums, and I'm just often struck by the fact that, they're all they all come out of Michigan, and sometimes they feel like a different and better species of person than I am. Especially Marlon. Marlon's just, it's hard to be around him because you're just like, oh, I should shave and cut my hair and I'll do all this stuff. But I mean, while the program may have fallen off, it's just really heartening to meet all the different program alums, and the Michigan Man thing I think did come through even the rougher periods. So. That's a little bit orthogonal.
And you really get that when you come back for the reunions and you all see each other. And, I was not part of the Charles Woodson era and who he was recruited by and all that. But when you get with those guys and they get with us and he has a chance to spend time with Bubba Paris or me, it's all the same.
Yeah.
And that those are the type of guys that got recruited here. And, nothing against our dear friends in the other parts of Michigan, but those kind of guys always got recruited that they might have been kind of somewhat good athletes, but there was always some type of flaw.
Yeah.
I don't want to say a character flaw, but it could have been, or another kind of flaw that when the going got tough, you knew damn well that Michigan was going to come out on tough because something was going to happen. And when I come back to my reunions and see the guys from my class, a lot of them didn't play here. They got recruited here and they graduated from here. And I don't care how much money they have. They're all raising their kids. They're proud of their kids. They're good in their communities. They try to do what they can for their school, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud to call them my friend. And those are the kind of guys that Lloyd Carr recruited and Bo recruited and Gary Moeller recruited. And they're the same guys when you meet them that say yes, sir, and everything that Jim Harbaugh's recruited. Even in 2016, that's who he's recruiting. They want to meet Charles Woodson. They want to hear what Tom Brady has to say. A lot of the kids today in a lot of these areas think they have it figured out at some of these other schools and don't have that tradition. And just proud that it's back on track.
I think I know why they recruited you. This is another example of our very visual podcast. Man, when you get talking and you get that brow furrowed, you look terrifying. I mean that in the best possible way.
And I always go back when Bubba and I are together. Everybody looks at it today and say, God, how big are you, 6'7"? You have to go back that we were recruited in 1978.
Yeah.
I mean, go back then, because I'll tell the last Bo story, because Bo never wanted to have a 300-pound lineman.
Yeah.
So Bubba from Louisville, Kentucky, who claimed that Muhammad Ali might have been his illegitimate father in the first couple of years of his career here. Bubba was 6'6.5". I was 6'7". We both came in at about 270 pounds when offensive linemen were like 235.
Yeah.
Right? And we got fat together. We won a Rose Bowl together. And, at the end of our junior year, we were both over 300 pounds. I was like 310 or 320. Bubba might have been 350. And after spring practice, Bo brought us in and said, I will not have an offensive lineman that's over 300 pounds. You will both be 290 pounds or less, da-da-da-da, right? So it was like, Bubba's like, I don't know what to do. Whatever. So in typical fashion for both of us, that was April. When we were done with school, we didn't really start talking about it again until June. Bubba was still 350. He bought one of those plastic suits, X-Lax, everything for a week.
No.
Well, he kept eating his pizza and his wings and everything, so obviously he didn't lose any weight. So I said, listen, Bubba, we just won the Rose Bowl. We're both All-American. I don't think we're losing our job. Let's just get in the best shape we can. We're not going to get down to 280 pounds. Let's just do our thing. Mike Gittleson will get us in shape. Let's go work out. Let's go do this and everything else. So we go and we start running. And Bo's on us every day. He says, if you guys are not under 290, you're going to run every day in camp. You're going to do this, this, and this. So Bubba calls me one Sunday. It's like 4:30 on a Sunday. He says, you have to get down to the football building right now. What's the matter? You okay? You got to get down here right now. So the scale down at the football building is a beef scale. Like, literally you could put a side of beef on there like for 1,000 pounds. It would go up to 1,000 pounds. So Bubba had the guy who used to fix the scale come in there and say, how could we fixed the scale that if you weighed 100 pounds, you'd weigh 100. But if you weighed 300 pounds, you would weigh 287. If you weighed 1,000 pounds, you would weigh 287. So the guy figured out if he took the plate off, we got tongue depressors from the training room and start putting tongue depressors, and then he put the plate back on. So if you got on, no matter what we weighed, Bubba was like 356 at the time, that if he got on there, Bubba would weigh 287 pounds. If I got on, I would weigh 287 pounds. I was like 320. And we were so big, and all the stuff we wore, you really couldn't tell the difference between 290 and 320, right? At least we couldn't. So we were in shape. We still could run 40s fast. We did our 1.5 miles in 9 minutes. So we were in shape. We were ready to play football. So the big weigh-in comes. The scales are set. Bo is like, I can't wait for you fat asses to run. I'm going to get you guys up. And we're seniors. It's like, there's no way we're going to do this. So Bubba weighs in first, stark naked. He gets up there. And Bo's saying, get your hands down. Don't be on there. He gets up there, 288 pounds. Everyone goes crazy. It's like, oh, my God, you made weight. So Bo looks at me and says, okay, fat ass, get on the scale. So I get on the scale. Wow, 287 pounds. So everyone goes crazy, hugging us, this and that, and Bo walks away. So the entire year now, there's not like an official weigh-in, but to make sure you didn't get dehydrated, like the junior managers would weigh you in like on the big practice day. So Bubba and I would get in there, and like just to make sure that it was not lethal, like one day would be 281, one day would be 289. So if anybody looked at it, it couldn't like be 287 the entire year. So as fate would have it, we are in Columbus, and it's an Indian summer day, and Mike Gittleson is worried that everybody is going to be dehydrated. It's like an 85-degree day when it's been like 50. And at the end of practice, Gittleson looks and he says, now I need everybody to weigh in just in case we need to have somebody on intravenous. So now Bubba looks at me like, there's no way we're weighing. I mean, this is like an away game. This scale's not fixed. So I said, just stay out here. You and I are going to play catch. Let everybody leave and get the heck out of here. We're fine. So that happens. We go into the locker room, and we go to take a shower. We come out, and we're putting our underwear on, and we hear the old man, Bo, hey, did you fat asses weigh in? Are you okay? He's coming out of the shower. He's stark naked. He said, Bo, I mean, does it look like we're going to be dehydrated? He says, get up on the scale. So now Bubba gets on the scale and weighs 357 pounds. The entire year he's 287. He's 357. I get on, I'm like 330. So now we're in the room. He's not looking at us during dinner. Bubba has his mother coming from Louisville. We're figuring out how we're going to tell our parents. They're all coming to see us play in the biggest game of the year. How are we going to tell them that we're not playing in the game, right? So we're all figured out. So we get a knock on the door, 10 o'clock at night, as Bo would check us in, at the end of the year. Sit down. He says, how stupid do you guys think I am? You fat asses think I thought you guys weighed 287 pounds the entire year? Go out and kick some ass tomorrow. So that was that. And we ended up winning both games at the Shoe and had great games there. But that's the kind of guy he was, that you were always on edge because you didn't want to disappoint him. He was so happy that there's a store for him. And when you're 18 years old, guys, there aren't many good decisions you make. And I made a hell of a great decision kind of following my parents' lead because they loved it here. Leaving, I still get a lot of back there because it's Ohio State country being in Youngstown, Ohio. But it's a great decision coming here and playing for Bo Schembechler.
Awesome. That's one of the best segments we've ever done. Thank you, Ed. Yeah. We're going to take one more break, and we're going to come back with our gimmicky top 5 of traditions that we think should be discontinued in the Big Ten.
Hi, this is Matt Demarest from Homeshare Lending. By now, you've probably read about my company on MGO blog, and I wanted to introduce you to a couple of the most important people in my life. My sons, Cooper and Colby. Cooper, how old are you?
I'm 7.5.
Colby, how old are you?
I'm 5.
Okay, boys, I have 3 really important questions to ask you. Who's your favorite team?
Michigan.
Who's going to win the big game?
The Wolverines.
And if you could buy or refinance a house with any company, who would you use?
Homesure London.
Good boys. Homesure Lending, 855-6-BE-SURE. Visit us online if that works better for you, homesurelending.com, HOMESURE, lending.com. We've helped Brian, Seth, and a bunch of readers buy or refinance their homes, and we'd love to help you too. All right, only thing left to do. Boys, can I get a Go Blue?
Go Blue.
Homesure Lending, NMLS number 1161358. Again, give us a call, 855-6-BE-SURE.
Hey, Ace, have you ever been in a car accident?
I have not.
You have to have been in a car accident for the purposes of this ad.
I apologize for not being in a car accident.
No, you say you've been in a car accident.
I've been in a car accident.
And what happened to your insurance rates?
They were skyrocketed through the roof.
Thank you. This is a professional podcast.
This is a very professional podcast.
Well, if you are in a car accident and your rates have skyrocketed, the state of Michigan actually allows you to avoid this by taking a defensive driver's class. And Defensive Drivers Group will provide that to you at a low cost. At defensivedriversgroup.com, take their online course, complete it as 99% of their applicants do, and get the states of Michigan, California, and New Jersey to wipe your record clean. There are no hidden fees, and the founders, who are both Michigan grads, will give you $5 off for mentioning this ad. Just say MGoBlog.
As Jim Harbaugh and the 2016 Michigan Wolverines begin their journey towards a 43rd Big Ten championship and 12th national title, it's important that you're also preparing for this historic season. If you find yourself on the wrong side of the law in Ann Arbor or around Metro Detroit, you want a Michigan man in the huddle. Call former prosecutor and now criminal defense attorney Jonathan Paul at 248-924-9458 or visit his website, michiganlawgrad.com.
The places you'll go may seem far from Ann Arbor, from San Francisco to St. Louis to Shanghai. But as members of the Alumni Association, we're never far. Because Michigan is more than a place. It's a mindset that connects us. For those who leave Michigan, but for whom Michigan never leaves, this is where you belong. The Alumni Association of the University of Michigan. Join today at umalumni.com.
Is your name Michael Diamond?
No, mine's Clarence. From downtown Manhattan, the village, my style's wild, and you know that it's still. It's smooth, baby, reppin' and you're doing the floor. Hey, yo, robot.
Beastie Boys, man.
Welcome back to the MGoBlog podcast, live at the Bow Store on Main Street. We have a gimmicky top 5 for you. It is Big Ten traditions that should be discontinued. Because, of course, we're playing Illinois, who discontinued the Chief about a decade ago.
Yes.
And I went down there for their first non-Chief game with my wife, who went to Illinois for undergrad. And she was kind of appalled by all the Chief stuff. So that's why this popped into my head. Also, then I thought of a particular tradition that should be discontinued. And I was like, we should do this. Ace, number 5.
Penn State's whiteouts, they're just a little on the nose.
Oh, my God.
I've been to Happy Valley twice, man. We're off to a great start. You're already face-palming.
Wow. Wow. See, like, I kind of like their whiteouts because, like, a black.
It does look cool on TV.
It looks cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
But it's Penn State, man.
I also love how, like, whenever Michigan does it, we're like, nah, screw it. Like, all the maze outs and stuff, we're like,
nobody actually does it.
Nobody does it, yeah. But, like, Iowa can do crazy card tricks, and we're just, like, too cool for school. So the whiteout.
They can coordinate, like, striped sections.
Yeah.
We could never do that.
No. But I think the whiteout kind of emphasizes this, and man, that's
came through strong early.
Came too strong. My number 5 is the waggle.
Oh, so you have really expanded this.
No,
the waggle is okay. Yes, that is a big trend tradition, without a doubt.
Which is something that is, you turn around and half the time a defensive end's in your face. I'm really bitter about that Notre Dame game with Denard Robinson.
Oh, word?
I'll take that to my grave. Because he'd flip around and there'd be 2 dudes out on him like, ugh. So, the waggle, you turn around, it's 5 yards if you get lucky, and I'm just like, Jeremy Tooman in the Rose Bowl, that was the last time anyone should have run a waggle. It's like, finish on a high note. And then they didn't do that.
No, they did not.
The waggle. Ace, your number 4.
Michigan State's continued use of footage from 300 in the stadium, which is just annoying as hell.
That's a good one. Because I remember that movie came out and I was like, oh God, oh no.
Because they put that right. It was like 5 minutes after that movie came out, they were playing videos in the stadium.
Yeah. And it's like, Spartans, what is your profession?
And the jokes off of that aren't even funny anymore because it's been going for too long.
No.
So they need to stop.
And then they do the who thing.
Yeah.
Who. Yeah, that is a good God.
And the Spartans lost. So
another good point.
Yeah.
Like they will in 2 weeks. My number 4 is Kirk Ferentz.
Man, I have bad news, dude. I have really bad news.
I know. I know that Kirk Ferentz is an unkillable zombie with an unkillable zombie contract, but I was just thinking about Big Ten traditions that should be discontinued.
That's certainly one.
And Kirk Ferentz.
he's up there.
Another Kirk Ferentz tradition that I would like to see discontinued is he suddenly gets much better at coaching when he plays Michigan.
Yes.
He's not going to punt from the 35 on 4th and 2.
His lizard brain just disappears for some reason.
Right. We gotta pull out all the stops and beat Michigan, and I'm just like, because I watch him.
I watch a lot of coaches, man. It's really annoying.
Well,
maybe that's a tradition we need to get rid of: is Big Ten coaches coaching their best game.
I mean, so
Michigan.
few of them have such a high David Shaw factor that they get rid
true.
of when they play Michigan.
That's true.
All things Kirk Ferentz should be discontinued. Ace, your number 3.
Wisconsin bank shots.
Bank shot. Oh.
I had to come up with 5, man. That was tough.
That hurt me.
I'm the basketball dude, as you
technically
made sure to point out.
Technically.
Oh, now I'm just technically the basketball dude. Yeah, those weren't fun. They should stop.
See, that's a bad answer because I have no commentary about it. We can't
I'm sorry.
I don't feel very sorry. My number 3 is the I don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan song that Ohio State uses.
I considered putting that on.
Which is just you have an entire song and your whole soul, your program's soul is hating on Michigan. That's the main thing.
But if you take that away, what is left there? No, are you suggesting we dismantle Ohio State entirely? Because you take that song away, and I'm not sure there's anything left.
No, there's plenty there. But let's just let drop the pretense that you don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan, because it's literally the only thing you do give a damn about.
They sing about it frequently.
It's it could be intentionally ironic, but we're talking about the Ohio State fan base,
so it's not.
Ace, your number 2.
Iowa's pink visitor locker rooms are still a thing, which I was kind of surprised when looking up stuff for this gimmicky top 5.
Yeah.
That those had not been painted over yet, and in fact had been repainted with a stronger pink.
What is it offensive to you?
Hayden Fry called it a sissy color in his memoir.
Did he?
This was part of my research.
I see.
And that doesn't come across so great.
Well,
so it might be time to just give up the whole masculinity locker room mind game thing.
I thought there was some study that he saw that was
that was the prevailing urban legend. Yeah, that was just a cover. I mean, come on, it's a football locker room painted thing. Why do you think they did that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's for breast cancer awareness.
No, I have no response to that.
I don't know if I really mean this one. It's not that bad, but Little Red.
Oh, that thing is creepy. That thing is super creepy. The inflatable Nebraska mascot.
There's the and he's upside down.
Yeah, he bounces on his head in a really that thing is nightmare fuel.
It is the most nightmare fuel mascot in the Big Ten. So on the one hand, I want to be rid of it. I want it to be exercised.
On the other hand, it's kind of hilarious.
On the other hand, it's just
there are pictures of it riding around with their other mascot on a tandem bike around the field, and it is so creepy but so hilarious. And I don't know what to do with it.
So I'm torn about this because I feel dead certain that's how I'm going to die. I'm just going to look up once and it's going to be Little Red, and I'm going to be
just bouncing up on its head.
I had I'm going to be I had a good run, but now it's over.
The Little Red's here.
So is it worth that horrendous demise to have Little Red around?
I mean, I think that's your call, dude.
It's Little Red. It's like a rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ace, your number 1.
Adding new programs.
See, we kind of have the same number 1.
Yes.
My number 1 is Rutgers.
I saw it on your page because my initial number 1 was Penn State football.
Okay, yeah.
And then I
That's
remember,
not really their
but then like
fault.
Rutgers and Maryland are also
Yeah.
in there, and then you go back and they replaced the University of Chicago with Michigan State way back when.
Yeah.
So adding new programs seems to be where the Big Ten goes wrong. Most
Yeah,
of the time.
that
And
is
it's a
deep,
long-standing
man.
tradition.
Mine was just like a shot at Rutgers.
You know,
But
we've taken a few
you went
in this
deeper. You went a
podcast.
little deeper.
I did. I one-upped your number one.
Well, the American cheese fiasco from the cheese week. I still think
I'm still clawing my way out of that.
My wife was actually going to cut some of the 5-pound block up for you so you could make grilled cheese with the challah. But then she got home late, so you didn't get any. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I have a block of cheddar. I'll make do.
Yeah, we should probably talk some recruiting since it is another big recruiting weekend.
It is. One
of only 2 home games left. And I think the headliner in town this weekend is Jay Tufele, did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Wow.
The Utah defensive tackle, who I think Sam Webb and Steve Lorenz are both pretty optimistic about, despite not really having much to go on.
Yeah, I mean, and reading, he did an interview this week with Steve Wiltfong of 247 where he talked about kind of all 5 of his top schools and was kind of gushing with praise about all of them. So I think there is sort of a...
He said awesome a lot.
Yeah, there's some mitigation here in terms of like, he talks very highly of Michigan. He also talks very highly about everybody else in his top group.
Yeah.
But the insider stuff from Sam and Steve are both kind of pointing towards Michigan. Ohio State was thought to be the
Other
primary
competition,
competition. Steve Lorenz posted a thing today saying that actually Utah and BYU might be Michigan's chief competition because Tufele wants that Polynesian connection. Ohio State doesn't really have that as much. BYU and Utah obviously have that in spades.
Yeah.
And Michigan with Tony Tuioti and the Polynesian players that they have on the roster. Commit Phil Paye is coming on campus for an official this weekend. It is not a coincidence that he's on campus the same time as Tufele.
And Mullen Hatcher is half, I think. And
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So they've got Brian Monet on campus. They had Sione Huma. Like they're really building towards something there. So I think they're looking to kind of establish that comfort level where Tufele will be willing to go away from home. But it seems like Michigan has a really good shot there.
Yeah, and of course he's a defensive tackle, which I mean Michigan. If you look at the depth chart next year, they need someone to come in and play immediately.
And he's a guy who looks like he could do that.
Yeah, now that Aubrey Solomon seems like a
Lost
major
cause.
long shot. We should probably talk about the 2 offensive line crystal balls we put in this week.
Yes.
We flipped TJ Slayton to Miami because we talked about this, I think, last week, where I just kind of had this feeling that it wasn't going to work out.
And lo and behold, this week, rumors start popping
and
up.
That was not.
We did not know
we
this.
didn't know this. This wasn't
this was a feeling that I think both of us kind of had throughout his recruitment, that there was just something a little bit off there. The basketball stuff was really weird when he was insisting that he was going to go to a school that would give him a shot to play D1 basketball.
But Sam Webb mentioned something about how they had some academic concerns this week, and we started looking around, and the University of Miami, he's actually taken 2 visits there already.
Yeah, and one of them he kind of kept on the low, which is usually a sign that you have a lot of interest in that school.
Yeah, so we just kind of feel like it's not going to work out with him, possibly because Michigan is going to fill up before he can commit.
And Kylian Herbert also seems like probably the biggest flight risk of the current commits.
Yeah, I mean, he is coming up for an official this week.
Yeah, so hopefully this weekend will reaffirm that. But if they keep adding commits, especially at tackle, that might be something that he took a visit to Miami too, and he's visited Florida.
Yeah.
He might look for a better opportunity there if he sees Isaiah Wilson or Alex Leatherwood or Jedrick Wills come in.
Yeah, so we're not projecting a flip for him yet, but it's on our radar.
Yes.
And then the other one, we put in a crystal ball for Jedrick Wills to Michigan.
We did.
Which is kind of a thing because he's been a Alabama silent commit for a period of time now. But, I mean, there's been consistent, really positive chatter.
SEC Country put out an article this week which kind of pointed to a potential reason why Wills might be cooling on Alabama, which is that they're looking at him as a guard right now.
Yeah.
Wills wants to play tackle. He also wants a chance to play early. I don't think Alabama's looking at it like Alex Leatherwood is that guy for them. That doesn't really leave a spot for Wills there that suits what he wants.
Yeah.
And Michigan does really legitimately have that opportunity for a guy of his talent level.
As early as next year, yeah.
And especially if he's enrolling early, which is his plan. So there is a lot to go on there.
Yeah, and it just kind of feels like the two schools are going to split those guys, and then Isaiah Wilson seems to be trending to Michigan. But
yes,
those are the two crystal balls that we put in for the linemen.
We also put in a recent one for Chuck Filiaga.
Oh, we did.
Yes. It's going to be a good O-line class, man.
It's good. It's just
we've also noted that we can change those later because, man, they're not going to fit all these guys in. But Slayton possibly falling off the board made it a little easier to see where things might go.
I still think that we have too many guys projected to Michigan, and there will be
a shakeout
away.
Of sorts.
Yeah, but when the guy goes on a visit and says that Michigan is his leader, as Filiaga did, and then USC, who was the previous leader, is no longer even getting an official visit.
No, and he'd already taken one to Oregon, and Michigan's visit immediately surpassed that.
And he's talking about Texas, but Texas is maybe
Not very
changing
good.
coaches.
Yeah.
So it was just tough for us not to put that one in.
Yes.
We did project you're going to have to do the Washington kid's name.
Oh, Henry Bienvelo.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. He seems to be staying home.
Yeah, we projected him to Washington because there were a couple of strong reports that with Washington very much on the upswing that he would rather stay home.
So we're not projecting everyone to Michigan. Just
just too
most
many.
of the linemen.
Just too many. Other official visitors this weekend of note?
Willie Gay is an interesting one, the linebacker from Mississippi. Who
kind of.
He is interesting in that he is committed to Ole Miss and has named Michigan his #1 school.
Right.
And the reason why that is going to probably play out where he sticks at Ole Miss is that there are definite academic concerns there.
Yeah.
And Michigan's coaches are not super optimistic, apparently, that they'll be able to get him to flip. I mean, Mississippi is the recruiting black hole of college football.
I'll believe that Michigan gets a kid out of Mississippi slightly, like 2 weeks after he graduates.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh.
that worked.
I guess we did get Jeremy Latour again.
But Donovan Jeter's a more interesting one.
That is an
tackle,
interesting one.
especially since this was just a fun quote.
Yeah.
Because he decommits from Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 247 guy then insists that Jeter still has Notre Dame at his top school. He expects him to be back in the fold.
He's not going to flip the crystal ball.
He won't flip his crystal ball, even though the dude just decommitted.
Yeah.
After Notre Dame has gone on this streak of being horrible.
And
then Jeter gives a quote to one of the local outlets in Pittsburgh saying, "I don't want to play for a mediocre school. I don't want to play for a team that goes like 7-6," which is bad news for Notre Dame because they'd be lucky to go 7-6 at this point.
And didn't he say, like, explicitly he was talking to Madison before he decided
yes,
to decommit?
and that a phone call with Greg Madison helped him come to his decision about decommitting. He also said something about how committing to Notre Dame, because it was his first official visit, I think.
Yeah.
And he said that was like marrying the first girl you kiss. This was a great recruiting article. There was a lot of good stuff in here. So I wouldn't expect Jeter to make any immediate decisions because of what I just said.
Yeah.
And Pitt's after him really hard, and they're his home school. There are a few other programs that could get into the mix. Ohio State could even get into the mix if they figure out numbers. But if I had to guess which program he ends up with right now, it's probably Michigan if they want to take him.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of guys on the burner now at this defensive tackle spot.
They really do.
They got Jeter. They have Irving Bay, who I think is a 3-tech long-term.
Yeah.
They have Tufele.
But they probably need to take 2 of those 3-tech, 5-tech type guys, so that could be something where they take.
I mean, they do have Hudson, and I got to say, like, whenever I see Hudson's film, he looks good.
He's really good. That is a strong dude.
Like, he looks explosive. He's huge. He reminds me of Willie Henry. Like, I think he's underrated. He's as a fringe 4-star guy.
And they also added the offer to Rutger Rietmeyer, and that guy's film is awesome.
Yeah, and Brady Hoke recruited him.
And he's committed to Oregon.
And
so
if Brady Hoke wants a defensive lineman, I'm listening.
Yes.
I mean,
and that dude's film, he does not look like a 3-star.
Well, he's a 4-star on 24/7.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the
borderline,
but
that dude's film, he needs to be ranked higher.
So, I mean, we went through large parts of this year just kind of like wondering what that board was going to look like.
And now it's like the offensive line where we're trying to figure out how to sift through these guys who might be favoring Michigan and who's actually going to wind up in the class.
I think we'll get a much better indicator after the Tufele visit because, if Michigan starts holding some of these guys off, I think they feel real good about that recruitment.
Yeah.
And if they take a commitment from a lower ranked guy who's not quite as high on their board, then maybe they're feeling Ohio State or he stays home.
Yeah.
Anything else coming on?
They do have an Iowa commit cornerback on campus, Matt Hankins. Who Steve has said Michigan would take him.
Yeah.
And that the challenge might actually be convincing his parents that Michigan would be a better home for him than Iowa, which seems like that is not that big of a hurdle.
Well, you get the family values thing from Kirk Ferentz, so I can see that working for them. And he seems like a good dude, so
yeah,
that's something that he's out of Florida. Is that right, or Texas?
Texas.
So
Iowa's actually done a pretty good job recruiting Texas.
Yeah, over the years they have.
They have Eno Benjamin in this class.
Yeah, they got a couple of guys who are actually pretty highly touted.
Yeah.
So they've done a good job down there. What are we thinking for? I mean, we're going to see a commit this weekend, or
there's not anybody that obviously
really
jumps out. If they get one, it's going to be a bit of a out of left field.
Yeah. But just one more big official revisit weekend with the Indiana game.
Yeah.
Which.
I think they're going to have a lot of important official visits that happen after the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case, especially because they've got some guys who are going to want to decide before they enroll early.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of those. So.
I think December is going to be pretty, like the first half of December, you're going to see some guys go off the board.
My carpal tunnel's going to be coming back.
I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I think
I can only hope they spread it out evenly, but it never seems to go that way.
No, it does not.
It never does.
I still can't believe Penn State's whiteout was like that. Just gonna
stopped you dead in your tracks.
That's just gonna linger with me.
I'm standing by that.
Now, you should have gone. That should have been number one. That was definitely the thing that made me shut up. All right, I think we're just about out of time
done.
this week. One thing we didn't mention is that Illinois has a great defensive end named Dwayne Smoot.
Yes.
And we're going to get a lot of information about Juwan Bushell-Beatty and what that left tackle spot looks like going forward based on his performance in this game.
Indeed.
We won't get much more information about anything else except how mad Michigan still is about Gary Moeller getting fired. Because
prediction, pretty mad.
Like by accident, though. It's
yeah, but still, they're going to take it out on
All right, see you guys. We would like to thank our sponsors, of course, the Bow Store, which is hosting us, UGP and Moe's, Homeshore Lending, the Residence Inn, Ann Arbor Downtown, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Tailgater Concierge, Michigan Law Grad, and the Defensive Drivers Group. See ya.